Hello and welcome to my latest video. So in this video I'm going to be taking a look at the Bone Dragon from the new Tomb King's Army box, because Games Workshop sent me the box, and I'm only reviewing the dragon kit really because all the other models in the box are really old. And there is quite a distinct difference in the quality of the models really between the dragon and the other models, just because they're old, although they do have like a certain charm to them. And I think when they're all painted up and used in ranks and things, they'll look pretty cool. But the dragon definitely is the bright spot in the box. And I actually really like this model. It comes with quite a few options as well. So you can build it like I have, and this was my preferred version. Or it might not be the best for gaming, but I very rarely take that into account when I'm building something. I always go for what I like the look of. So this is the High Priest, but if you want, you can have a Tomb King on it instead, and that changes the look not only of the rider, obviously, but also the Howder as well. So for a start off, you lose the cool little vulture magic spell that's coming out of it, and also the like the canopy off the top, and there's also like a back plate, and like there's all, and the front plate as well. Actually, there's quite a few different little bits and pieces. But also, if you don't use the Tomb King, you can use the spare model to build like a foot walking tomb prince, and also you can stick his little cat on the base as well. The cat's supposed to be to go on the dragon, but I thought it's quite a cool little model, so I'll be sticking that on the base of my tomb prince. And so here's one variation of that I've built. He does come with multiple weapon options as well, and so he has like a spear and I think some sort of like a flail and a couple of other things, but this was the one that I like the look of again the best. So don't just glue them together how I have if you're like into really competitive gaming, because I probably haven't picked the best things, but for me to paint him, I think this is a nice looking weapon. Also, you have to be a little bit careful when you're building this guy, because he has different arm options, but he doesn't. So the shield there is the only thing he can hold, or like the only option he has for that arm if you have him as a foot version. But if you build him to go in on top of the Bone Dragon, he has another arm that is holding the front of the Howder, so he's like standing on it and steadying himself. But you could put that hand on him by mistake and it won't fit. The same is also true for his cloak at the back. So the cloak is designed, this cloak only is designed to go on the walking one. The other one, it's a bit bigger. I accidentally did this myself. It looked better, so I put that one on, then I discovered the shield wouldn't fit. So just be a little bit careful when you're building it, because you can end up with something that you can't actually complete putting together, because various parts only fit with other parts, and it doesn't explain it that clearly in the instructions. Also, you have to be a little bit careful when building the Bone Dragon as well. Generally, it's a very simple kit to put together. The really nice thing is it's very open, and you can access all the areas without a problem. So I pretty much just stuck the whole thing together, apart from obviously the Howder there is held on with some white tack, so that will allow me to pull that off and paint it separately. Also, the head on the Bone Dragon is really, really nice, because that's not glued on at all, and it's not tacked on either. The connecting point on that is fantastic. Like, it's so tight and stable that you don't have to glue that at all, and you'll be able to leave that on. It just won't ever fall off. But if you want to spend a bit of time painting it and doing a really nice job, you can also take the head off and then really focus on that, which is what I'm going to be doing. So for the rider as well, I've also not glued him on to the Howder. It just niggles a little bit, this, but if you look at the hand and arm connection point, so obviously he's only tacked onto the base, so it's not quite lined up perfectly there. I wasn't too bothered about that, but the hand is part of the spell with the vulture coming out. So when I was building him, I wanted him to be a complete piece, just because mainly so I don't have bits laying all over my desk. When it comes to painting, so I'm only going to be painting this as like a high tabletop sort of standard as a gaming piece. But you can't separate the hand out from the magic spell. And he's not designed to be an independent piece. So if you put the Tomb King in here, you can't use him as a separate walking model. Or I mean, I guess you can if you wanted to go and convert him quite a bit. But just be aware that if you want to have a walking character model along with this, you have to use this build that I've done here. You could probably tweak it a little bit. You wouldn't have to use the staff that he's holding. You could switch that out probably quite easily with the Tomb King weapons, but I don't think that's going to make a huge difference, and I think this probably suits the look of the model a little bit better. The only other slight annoyance with this, and this is just me being lazy really, but on the bangles on the dragon, the sort of wrist things, when you glue them together, there's a slight sort of indentation, so it's quite hard to fill. So what I usually do is fill it with sprue glue, and then when it's all dry I'll sand it down or whatever, and that's kind of what I've done here, and then tidied it up with a bit more very thin glue on top, so it's all sort of nice and neat, but it looks a little bit deformed still. If you wanted to do a really high-end job, you'd probably have to go back and sort of sculpt over the join part with some like green stuff or modeling putty or whatever, because from the way that it's come out of the mold, it does sort of curve inwards. Or you could just leave it as like a gap, maybe sculpt on a couple of clasps so it looks like it's actually got like a lever and a clasp section on it, which would also look quite cool and probably be a little bit easier than having to resculpt the whole thing so it's smooth all the way around. Apart from that, the model is it's just very easy to put together. The only so it's not hard, but there is a couple of little sort of weird points on the seat that he sits on. So when you're looking in the instructions at the throne, there are points where it says to glue it together, and when you sort of like fit the piece in, there's no real like obvious connecting points. It just sort of floats a little bit there, so you kind of like, am I putting that in the right spot? There's not too much to go completely wrong. I mean, you could obviously go completely wrong if you just wanted, you weren't being careful. Like if you just use your brain a little bit, you should be able to figure out where it goes, but it could be quite easy to slide it slightly to the left or right, and it still look like there's no obvious thing on it that says you've done that wrong, apart from when you stuck it all together and it looks slightly lopsided. So that's true for the seat. It's true for the howdah as well. It's not very clear, not the howdah, the canopy, sorry, on the howdah. It's not very clear where that connects as such. It just sort of, it goes there. So as long as it's kind of level, you'll be fine. Again, they're not massive issues for, you're going to go completely wrong, but it could just look a little bit lopsided if you're not careful with how you sort of glue it in. And on the front section, so you can't quite see it in the video, but he has like a little book, tome of some sort, for I guess raising dead and spells and all that kind of stuff. It's not incredibly clear which way around the book goes. I accidentally glued it upside down to start with because the connecting point again is not that obvious. That also, like, it's quite, you have to sort of like just keep shuffling bits around. So I wouldn't recommend using super glue. Like having some polystyrene cement, because it takes a bit longer to set, just allows you to sort of wiggle everything around to make it all sort of fit together, because otherwise you could just end up with something looking slightly twisted, slightly offset. It's not a huge issue because you can't even really see it that clearly, and it's just stuff that he has inside the howdah for like more character. Kind of also similar as well to the little hanging scales that are just underneath the canopy. So as I mentioned, the canopy and obviously the scales that go with it, these are only for the Hierophant or whatever he is, like the necromancer guy on top here. So it's very easy to make it look like they're sort of swinging. I say swinging because I haven't quite got mine perfect with how I've set it, because I glued it into the canopy when the canopy wasn't on. Of course, that's the obvious way to do it, because then you it's quite hard to actually get the little connecting point if the canopy was glued at the top there. But if you do that, you don't know the exact angle to hold it while it's drying, and obviously being polystyrene cement, it's very easy for it to move a little bit as well while it's drying. So just all little things to be aware of when you're building it, that it could not be definitely wrong, but just look a little bit weird after it's set. But the main structure of the dragon, incredibly easy. That does have all very obvious connecting points. The only slight tricky bit I would say on that would be on the feet where they connect to this rock. You have to have really nailed how the dragon builds together. There are connecting points that show like the claws sort of clip into the rock a little bit, but it's quite hard to actually spot them, and it might look a little bit like the claws are floating if you haven't got it perfectly right. But if you just look carefully, you should be able to see them. It's hard to make it fit perfectly. But apart from that, I think the kit as just like a visual aspect, it looks great. Pretty good for painting. Although if you're going to use it for social media posting with your photos and painting, the dragon is very long, so it's going to be either have to do photo stacking or something like that to get it all in focus, because otherwise it's just going to be like the rider in focus and the head and the tail of the dragon out of focus, that kind of thing. Or you can photograph it from the side, and then you've got something that just looks weird and it's all looking in the wrong directions. But I'm quite keen to paint this. I'm very tempted to go by the box art, not the painted model box art, but the 2D artwork on the sides of the box. I think it looks fantastic, so I'm quite keen to do that. It's going to be like quite a quick style of painting, but I think that sort of suits the artwork anyway. And I want sort of a very kind of rough and grubby looking feel to my Tomb Kings as well. But that's it. That's the end of the video. So let me know what you think of the model as well. I'm not going to be doing any painting tutorials for the other models in the box, but this one will be coming out. I might do the Tomb Prince as well, because I think he looks pretty cool as one of the new models as well. But anyway, so that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.